Hello, I'm Siqaiyuk. Thank you for joining me while I read this story, The Two Friends, that I wrote. The Two Friends, a Vilite Katik. There were two very good friends, Siulik and Payuk. They had been best friends since their early childhood. Siulik lived far out on an island away from the coast. Payuk lived far inland at the head of a fjord. Since they were so close, they were always visiting each other. When they had been apart for several days, they both felt a desire to visit each other again. In the summer, Payuk, who lived at the head of the fjord, he would go caribou hunting inland. When he was done hunting, he always took a caribou to Siulik. He gave him the one with velvety horns full of tallow. Siulik, in his part, hunted seals and dried the seal meat. When Payuk visited Siulik, he would serve dried seal meat, and as his house grew warmer, he would bring frozen seal meat out to eat. Payuk would praise the food being served, and they would socialize late into the evening. The following day, Siulik would visit Payuk at his house, and now they would eat caribou meat together all day. Siulik found the caribou meat delicious and would tell Payuk that, especially the tallow. When Siulik left to go to his home out on the little island, Payuk would send him home with the little caribou meat and tallow. One year, Payuk was longer than normal inland hunting caribou. He was still inland, even though the ground had frozen and snow began to fall. Siuluk missed Payuk and longed to visit with him. As more time passed, he in turn became angry. When the fresh seal meat began to spoil, he ate it all himself. When Siuluk heard that Payuk was finally back from hunting, he was still angry. He went out to a grave and cut a small piece of fat away from a dead body. Then he rubbed it onto certain parts of a seal he intended to share with Payuk, thus doing an evil enchantment upon him. Shortly after he had done this, Payuk came over to visit him. They were both happy to finally see each other after a long absence. Now Payuk was able to explain to Siulik that he was unable to hunt a caribou with nice antlers, and that was why he was gone so much longer than usual. Siulik replied, I was worried that I hadn't seen you for such an unusual amount of time. When my first seal started to go bad, we had to eat them before you came. Now let's have the last one of the season I am able to offer you. The seal was brought out, and it was cut into larger pieces to eat. Siulik served the pieces that were altered in front of Payuk, with the altered side up. Just as Payuk was about to eat the cursed meat, something from beneath the ledge pulled at his leg. Payuk was taken aback, but started to eat again after a moment's pause. Then a second tug happened, and he said, I am going outside for a little bit, for he was an Iñupiaq, a shaman, and knew something was up. Once outside, his Tunahak, his helping spirit, the one who had pulled twice at his leg, told Payuk, Thy friend Siulik has put evil into the meat. Turn the meat over and do not eat the top of the meat, for it has been rubbed with the fat of a dead person when he was angry. If you eat it, you will go mad. When Payuk returned inside and sat down, he flipped the meat over. Siulik thought that it was just an accident that Payuk turned his food over. After Payuk had eaten a lot of the meat, his stomach felt a spasm of pain, but it quickly went away. He had only touched the smallest amount of poisoned flesh. When he left, he asked Siulik to visit him soon. Payuk returned home and took the caribou with the best velvety horns full of tallow, and he gave it the same treatment that Siulik had done. When Siulik came to visit him, he gave the altered horn to eat. Siulik found the horn to be the best, for Payuk had taken so long to successfully hunt the caribou that he was anticipating the taste of the caribou antler and tallow, and therefore was extremely satisfied while eating it. Siulik told Payuk, This caribou is so delicious. Payuk replied, Yes, because there is so much tallow. When the meat was all eaten, Siulik felt a pain in his stomach. He got up and went outside, hoping for the pain to go away, but it did not. Siulik spent the night, for he did not feel good. The next day, Siulik left. It ended up being a long time before Payuk saw his friend again. Payuk went out kayaking, keeping a lookout for Siqaiyuk. He had no success finding Siqaiyuk, so he ventured out further to sea than he ever had before. He came across an Iñupiaq, a large multi-person boat, and recognized it as Siqaiyuk's. When he got closer, Payuk saw that it was in fact Siqaiyuk's Iñupiaq, but that he wasn't in it. "Where is your hunting captain, Siqaiyuk?" asked Payuk to the hunting party. "He is sick and has become raving mad. He tried to eat us, so we left him," said the hunting party. The next day, Payuk went out to visit his friend Siqaiyuk. There was no one to be seen at his house, but as Payuk cautiously entered the house, he saw that Siqaiyuk was lying down on his back on the ground, barely moving to breathe, his eyes wide open, staring at nothing, and his head butted up against the central fire. He slowly approached him and softly asked how he was, but no answer was given. After an awkward pause, Siqaiyuk suddenly bolted up, startling Payuk, shouting at the top of his voice, "Because you poisoned my food, I have eaten all of my housemates. Now I shall devour you also." Then he ran at Payuk, but Payuk ran quickly to his kayak and hopped in. Payuk was able to push Siqaiyuk off of him as his arms were grabbed. Siqaiyuk ran along the shore as Payuk started to paddle his kayak, yelling, "I feel better now. Come back. I have not seen you in many days, and I long to visit with you." Payuk, hearing his friend speaking like normal, turned and approached the shore. However, Siqaiyuk made a mad dash at Payuk, and he pushed back into the water with his kayak before Siqaiyuk could grab him. Payuk reached his home at the mouth of the fjord, and never spoke about Siqaiyuk again. His family observed that his behavior was altered from normal. That night, with a sorrow-filled heart, he told his family what had happened. His family told him to never go back to Siqaiyuk, as he was a madman and would try to eat him again if given a chance. But Payuk missed his friend dearly. The following day, he felt compelled to visit Siqaiyuk. A similar thing happened as the previous day, but instead of Payuk being chased to his kayak, he was chased back into the house. Payuk had to climb out of the window to escape from the mad Siqaiyuk, and he barely made it to his kayak. The next day, Payuk again visited Siqaiyuk, for he missed his friend. When he approached Siqaiyuk's house, he peered through the window and saw that Siqaiyuk was in worse condition. He was lying down, same as before, but his eyes seemed to be larger, redder, and protruding from his face, which had become gaunt, and the bridge of his nose had become as sharp as a knife's edge. Siqaiyuk sat up and cried, "I am starving. I must eat you," as he chased Payuk. Payuk again jumped out of the window to escape, barely making it to his kayak and out of the madman's reach. That night, when he was home and talking to his family about the day's events, they implored him to stay away from Siqaiyuk. "When I have not seen my friend for a day, I really miss him, and I would die with longing. I cannot resist from trying to see him be his old self," said Payuk. The next day, Payuk again visited his friend. This day he found the house deserted. He searched the whole house and still saw no sign of Siqaiyuk. While searching outside, he saw some footprints going up a hill. He followed them to a cave with large rocks around the entrance. Siqaiyuk was sitting hunched over, with his back against the wall of the cave. As Payuk approached him, he did not move. Payuk approached slowly and saw that Siqaiyuk was dead, with his eyes filled with blood. Payuk moved many stones to tightly close up the entrance to the cave. He was now friendless. This is a traditional Inuit story that I rewrote in my own words, and one of the messages I think from it, that I get from it, is that you need to be careful how you treat your friends. Being in a very harsh environment, you never know when you'll need someone. So I think one of the messages is to Be careful how you treat your friends, because they may not be your friends for very long. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing my channel with people you think would like it also. Watching my videos all the way to the end supports my creative endeavors on the YouTube algorithm. For those of you who want to support me more directly, please consider buying my artwork and creations from Etsy and digital books and short stories from Smashwords, many of which are free, like the one that I just read. For anyone who wants to support me in becoming a full-time artist and content creator, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Thank you for considering it. Like always, links are in the description. Keep it indigenous. Kuyana and Chickenick.